next Wednesday, so that means phenology walk time. And every Wednesday, Adam leads our phenology walks. So Adam, what is phenology?
So phenology is the study of specific life cycle events in nature and their relationship to seasonal changes in the environment. So these are things that occur on predictable cycles in both plants and animals. So plants, you might look at things like when flowers bloom, or when trees develop buds, or when the leaves change color. And in animals, it's things like mating seasons or migrations, or when insect larvae hatch and swarm.
So here at Lutzinger, what have you been doing to track phenology, and what are we actually tracking?
So in this study, we are tracking basically the blooming time of flowers. So this started back in 2014, and it's been kind of taken on by different staff members since then. But we have 8 paths, permanent transects that throughout the Lutzinger property that we walk once a week, and basically record everything in bloom, and keeping track of the seasonal changes in flowers. You know, what flowers are blooming like from like spring to early summer are going to be different from like midsummer and then now. And then also like how those bloom times change from year to year. It's a very large long-term data set that we're building.
And you've looked at some of the previous year's data and have been kind of graphing that out. Have you seen anything interesting so far out of that data that you've looked at? I know it's a very short amount of time that you've looked at it, but have you seen anything of interest so far?
Interesting things would be like there are fluctuations, like when the first flowers start blooming versus like when they stop, when like the last flowers stop blooming. So like the total like time span of bloom times changes from year to year, and then certain species show up some years and then aren't present the next year. So it's different compositions of species depending on which transect you're on. So here we have one of our signature fall blooming flowers here on site. This is Helenium autumnale with the unfortunate common name sneezeweed. And you'll notice the specific epithet autumnale refers to autumn, so it's known for blooming this time of year, where you won't see it at all earlier in the year. And you can see it's just coming down from peak bloom. See a little less than half of the total flower heads are still showy. Like a lot of them are starting to turn brown and go to seed. Here's another one of our nice fall flowers. This is the closed bottle gentian, Gentiana andrewsii. And this is usually one of the last flowers that blooms. I think it was the very last flower we recorded in bloom last year.
There's a eastern carpenter bee cheating, stealing nectar from the base of it instead of actually pollinating it. The eastern carpenter bee is a little too big to fit inside. Oh, and there's another one too.
So as we're documenting like all of the flowers that we see in bloom here on site, we compile all this data together, and then I can make charts like this to kind of visualize what we're seeing in the field, because it's hard to, get a mental picture of everything just on a weekly basis. So you can see for a chart like this, for each transect, I make a chart where each bar indicates one individual species and how long it's blooming. You can see the charts laid out in 30-day increments. So starting from the first blooming ones, going all the way to the last ones in blooms. And then we can compare those with based on different years or even different transects in the same year.
And so if a teacher wants to do any kind of phenology tracking with their students, what can they do? How can they participate?
So there's a really cool program. It's a community science program called Nature's Notebook. It's a project managed by the National Phenology Network, whose whole job it is to track and catalog this data and make it available to people. So it's pretty easy to use because it's made for citizen scientists. But essentially, you make an account, and it teaches you how to make phenological observations of both plants and animals. So if you're tracking plants, you might track flower bloom time like we do, or tree like bud break, or like leaf out or leaf drop. Animals, you can track things like pollinators or bird migrations, or different, or just presence absence data. So it's pretty versatile, and a lot of things you can do with it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little bit of a peaceful morning that I had the other day with the frost. And I hope you also enjoyed Adam's phenology walk. I always love going out on a walk with him. But now, we have a couple of teachers visiting today, and we'll get to hear a little bit about the two opposite ends of the spectrum of teaching. So teaching the very youngest of children and the very oldest of children. I mean, I'm still a big kid. This is our teacher partner, Peggy Knock. Peggy, this is one of our first groups back out here to Litzinger with kids. How do you feel about that?
I was so excited. They were excited. The whole school was excited to be able to come and send this bunch of kids to Litzinger to play in the woods and the creek and the prairies.
What were you excited to do today specifically?
They're finding examples of God's diversity in plants. It's a Lutheran school that I'm teaching at, and it's the first time they've been in a large woods or a creek. I heard, "Where's the creek? Where's the creek?" all the way up. They just have been very excited about this as soon as I told them.
That's so awesome. We're glad to finally see kids back out enjoying the outdoors here at Litzinger Road Ecology Center.
And we're glad to be here.
So we are here with Dr. Nicole Miller-Strutman from Webster University, who is one of our research partners here, and she's been bringing out her lab the last couple weeks. So Nikki, what is it like to finally get students back out in the field?
Awesome. There is just something different about being immersed in the habitats and being able to interact with the organisms that you're studying in a really tangible way, right? Especially given how much everything is virtual right now. To actually be able to have them manipulate and work with the organisms, in this case today it's plants, I mean, it makes a huge difference. They perceive everything differently. We spent about an hour talking about just experimental design and thinking about the site and how it's organized and how that might influence the organisms. They had been here last week, so they already had a sense for what that variation looked like. And, you know, it just makes a huge difference when you can physically be in the place.
And what would you say are some of the challenges you've been facing so far this semester?
The challenges are trying to make sure that everybody is getting what they need when they're joining us, either in the field or in class in a different way. So For a given class, I might have half of my students who are physically there and half of the students that are joining virtually. And then when we come into the field, that is one time when we are all together because we are social distance, but we are outside wearing masks. So it's like the one time that we can really pull together and have everybody in one spot physically. But the hardest part is just making sure that there's good communication between me and the students, and that I know that they're getting what they need and that they know that they can approach me at any time and make it through this whole mess together. So another thing that's really awesome about actually being out in the field is that serendipitous things happen. So we came out those last few weeks to Litzinger Road Ecology Center because we wanted to look at galls. And solidagos have these really interesting parasites that live, so the goldenrods, that live in their stems. And they basically trick the plants into providing food for their larvae that are growing in there. And then they create these little things called galls. And this is a rosette gall. And one of the things that was really interesting is when I'm with my class, we break it open and actually take a look at the little insect that's in there. And this time around, we found something that just didn't look quite right. It looked odd to us. At the time, we weren't really quite sure what it was. And turns out it was a parasite of the parasite. So there's this really cool trophic level within, multiple trophic levels within the plant. So you have your midge, your fly midge, that creates the gall. And then you have these parasitic wasps that actually lay their larvae into the midge. And our students were able to see that. And we got some really cool pictures. And it's just that kind of thing that you can't really plan for necessarily. But when you find it, it's just the joys of nature, right? Right there that you're able to unlock together.
Well, we're really excited to have students back on site at the Litzinger Road Ecology Center.
We're excited to be here.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed getting a chance to see a really peaceful early morning here at Litzinger, which some of you may not ever get the chance to see, and getting to go on a phenology walk with Adam and I, and then getting to talk to a couple of our teachers that are making the best of 2020. So if you want, stick around. I've got another little short video from a hike I took this past weekend at Fultz Hill Prairie Natural Area in Illinois. It is one of the last few Luss Hill prairies left in the state of Illinois. And so come along, and if you, like I said, if you got a couple minutes, enjoy a peaceful hike with me.